With Rose versus Whaley 3 being a possible trilogy to happen in 2023, I just want to give my thoughts on this potential matchup and give sort of an analysis of who might win this one. The first couple of times I did pick Rose to win. I was never overly confident each time I did pick Rose, but I was right both times. The first time I predicted Rose to win a decision, she knocked Whaley out with a head kick, which I wasn't surprised she knocked Whaley out. I did have a gut feeling she was going to get the finish. The second time, I predicted a decision again, and the fight went the way I thought it would. The first time, with it being a very close fight, and it ended in a split decision where Rose got the nod. But then since then, Rose went on to drop the belt to Carla Esparza in a snooze fest. Zhang Wei went on to show some massive improvements in her game, knocking out Joanna in the rematch and then submitting Carla to regain her title. And now there's a huge chance we could be seeing maybe the biggest possible trilogy in women's MMA history. And I think third time might be a charm for Zhang Wei against Rose Namajunas, even though her score is not looking pretty, being 0-2 to Thug Rose. I think this time, Weili Zhang might get her. And look, I am a huge diehard Rose fan. For any of y'all who've seen my old channel, you would know how much I am a Rose fan. You know how much I love Rose. But I gotta be unbiased and I gotta be realistic. The first two times I predicted Rose would win, but now the third time around, I might actually have a different opinion, a different outlook on this matchup. The first time I did pick Rose, there was a bit of bias involved, but I did have some logical reasoning behind my Rose pick. And then the second time, I was a bit more confident in her that she could get it done. But this time around, now in hindsight, knowing what I've known and seeing what I've seen from both fighters, I just kind of see Weili winning. And I know that, like, usually the one who's usually down 2 going into a trilogy loses the third time around. Like, look at Holloway versus Volkanovski, for example. But I can't see this trilogy going that way. I just can't see it being a scenario where, like, Weili can just never beat Rose, or that Rose will just win every time they fight. Like, some people like to act like Weili just can't beat Rose. I do agree that Rose is a stylistic tough matchup for Zhang Weili. I do agree that she is a bad matchup for Zhang Weili, and there is a reason that she's beaten Zhang Weili twice. But Rose Namajunas is not that much better than Zhang Weili. If you really think about it, Rose doesn't have that many advantages stylistically over Zhang Weili. They're pretty much closely matched in a lot of areas. They're very even in speed. They're very even when it comes to grappling, jiu-jitsu. Weili can handle Rose on the ground. She showed that in the second fight. Rose was unable to get a submission. Zhang Weili is a better wrestler than Rose Namajunas. Both are evenly or equally as good in the clinch, because Rose was able to survive the clinch against Zhang Weili, but neither really hold a big advantage over one another in that department. Rose has better cardio than Zhang Weili in the late rounds, as shown in their rematch. But ultimately, if you really think about the matchup, really what makes Rose that much better? I mean, Rose has the advantage when it comes to footwork, distance management, defense. She's a lot more elusive than Zhang Weili. But people have this false perception that, like, Weili just can't strike with Rose, and Rose just has a huge advantage in the stand-up, which ultimately is not true at all. Weili can hang with Rose on the feet. And people forget, even though Weili did a lot of wrestling in the rematch, Zhang Weili had a lot of success in the stand-up with Rose as well. It's not like in the first fight, Rose was completely dominating the stand-up until she landed the head kick. It's not like in the second fight, Rose was like completely dominating each round on the feet and then Weili got a takedown to seal the round. Weili was winning round 2 on the feet. A majority of round 2, Weili was winning the stand-up and the grappling exchanges, and Rose got the second round based off one takedown towards the end of that round. And in round 3, it kind of looked like Rose was winning that round, but Weili had an edge in terms of striking numbers, and Weili actually has a volume advantage against Rose Namajunas, which volume is key when it comes to scoring points throughout each round. With Weili, with all the volume she lands, she has an ability to actually outland Rose. And Weili can also outland Rose while being patient. She's one of the very few women who can actually strike with Rose at a range and make Rose struggle. And she's very good at making Rose struggle, finding her range to work her boxing while just simply out-kicking Thug Rose. There's really no area in this fight where Rose can be completely dominant over Zhang Weili. And I honestly don't think that Rose will be able to make enough adjustments from the second fight, headed into a third fight, to just completely dominate Zhang Weili. I just feel like every time Rose fights Weili, she's always going to struggle, much like she did in that second fight. And I just can't see Rose making the right adjustments to be able to completely shut Weili out in the rematch, or be completely dominant. And if anything, I just think Zhang Weili, she's progressed a lot more, since their first fight. She showed a lot of improvements in that second fight, and then a lot of improvements after that fight against Joanna, and then when she won the belt back against Carla Esparza. I just think Weili is more likely to win a third fight with Rose, just because I feel like at this point she kind of wants it more. I feel like she's going to be more determined to win this time around because she hasn't had her chance yet to beat Rose. And I think that's what's going to drive her. Rose isn't going to come in a third fight with that same drive that I have to beat this girl because she's already beaten Zhang Weili twice. So that could play a huge factor. And I just think Weili is just more consistent mentally and in her performances. Rose, you just never know what Rose might show up, which is a problem with Rose because she's so inconsistent, and it makes it very difficult to trust her when making a prediction. It makes it very difficult to have any kind of faith in Thug Rose, whereas with Zhang Weili, you know what you're getting, and you know that she's going to show up every time, and she's going to win when it counts, whereas Rose, not so much. We just saw her fumble it in her last fight against Carla Esparza, which is very concerning heading into a potential trilogy with Zhang Weili. And Rose, ever since becoming a champion the first time, the bar of competition, the level of competition has raised up, and Rose has been struggling with her opponents. Yeah, here and there she'll get a knockout, but when she's not getting the finish, her fights have been very difficult for her, and they've been very razor close. She's unable to dominate her opponents, whereas Weili, she's like destroying these girls. She's destroying Andrade, who Rose had a hard time with. Rose had a close rematch with Joanna. Weili had a dominant rematch with Joanna. Rose had a hard time with Carla and ended up losing a close decision. Weili ran through Carla Esparza. Now, the point I'm trying to get across is not MMA math. The point I'm trying to get across is that if Rose is struggling with these girls, especially Weili in that second fight, then how do you expect her to come back in a third fight with Zhang and just do any better? If she doesn't get a finish, which I think is very unlikely for her to ever finish Weili again, she's still going to have a difficult time with Zhang the third time around. And that second fight, Rose winning that fight wasn't because she was just so much better than Weili and Weili just can't beat Rose. It was because it was a close championship fight, and usually champions in close fights have the benefit of champ bias, which Rose had, which is a big reason as to why she got the nod. But if the shoe was on the other foot, if Zhang Weili was the one who was the defending champion, she likely would have got that decision over Rose. And if the third fight goes anything like the second fight did, then Rose is not going to get so lucky on the scorecards against Zhang Weili. I really don't think so. But if Zhang Weili makes it more convincing, if, say, she gets it done against Thug Rose, honestly, that won't surprise me, and I kind of see that happening. However, I'm not trying to say that straight up Weili is going to win the trilogy. I'm just trying to list down reasons as to why Whaley is likely to win this time around if her and Thug Rose do that trilogy. I'll definitely be doing a follow-up breakdown on this matchup down the line. But for now, that's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on this matchup in the comment section down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.